What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Full Throttle Drive. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. So we are just a few short weeks away from the official unveiling of the Corvette C8, and I am so excited. I know so many of you guys are excited as well. And Chevrolet, this is a huge thing for them. This is the biggest change we've ever seen for the Corvette lineup in the past almost 70 years that the Corvette has been around. So very exciting stuff. But as of late, Chevrolet has been very tight-lipped on the information that they have put out. There's really been nothing leaked as of new, and on the channel, I've been trying to keep up to date on everything so my subscribers are aware of what's going on. But I thought it would be fun today to do a different type of video and give you 5 kind of wants that I'm hoping to see on the new C8 mid-engine Corvette. Of course, I'm going to be ordering one, and I'm going to get to share that whole process with you guys, and as well as doing tons and tons of content once I have the car, reviewing it, hopefully doing tons of modifications, taking it to the track. Very exciting. I think it will be a lot of fun to add to the channel's content. So look forward to that. And if you are new to the channel, take this opportunity to possibly subscribe. We would absolutely love to have you in the community. But as I was saying, I'm going to talk today about 5 things I'm hoping to see, as well as how probable it is that we see these on the upcoming mid-engine Corvette. Now, I do want to say, disclaimer, this is of course mostly speculation. I'm basing it off of what we already know for the most part about the car and what has been leaked, but for the most part, until Chevrolet actually gives us and verifies this information, a lot of this is speculation, but it's a lot of fun, and it gives me a chance to hear what your guys' thoughts are on my favorite things, as well as what you guys would love to see on the upcoming mid-engine Corvette. So the very first thing that I would like to see on the upcoming Corvette C8 is I would like to see the engine output of 500 horsepower or more. Now, specifically talking about the engine, we believe that the new engine on the base model C8 is going to be a 6.2 liter V8, much like we've seen in the previous generation C7. It will be probably reworked in some ways, and it's going to be dubbed probably the LT2 engine. Now, we do know there's 2 other possibilities for engines down the road, whether that be seen in the Z06 version or the ZR1, eventually maybe even a hybrid version, but that's a 4.2 liter twin turbo and a 5.5 liter flat plane crank. Again, those are just leaked information that we've heard of, and those power outputs will be even more, possibly 700, 800, 900 horsepower, all the way up to what we've heard is possibly a 1,000 horsepower supercar hybrid, which would be very, very cool. Of course, out of the price range for a lot of people, but very neat. But for the base, I think 500 horsepower is great. We know 450 to 460 horsepower is what we saw out of the previous generation, the C7 Corvette, and the Stingray was no slouch. With that horsepower combined with the torque that it had, it made 0 to 60s in sub 4 second range, which is very good. That car was a quick car base with a few extra features, accessories, performance upgrades. We saw very quick C7 bases, and then add the Z51 package all the way up to what we had with the Z06, which was 650 horsepower. Those cars were extremely fast anywhere, the street, the track, no matter where. So I'm hoping to see 500 horsepower on the base C8 Corvette, and from what we've heard, we think that's very likely. Getting an additional 40 horsepower out of the already reworked LT1 is something that we do think is highly plausible, and I think 500 horsepower is a nice mark setting up for the base C8 Corvette. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are, but I think that's probably a very, very doable figure for Chevrolet. Now, the second thing that I'd like to see on the car is a targa top, and this is also very plausible because from what we've seen from patents and other leaked documentation, it looks like the base Corvette, the actual coupe version, will get a targa top. Of course, the C7, the C6 had those as well. So the previous generations have seen this, and we believe this will flow over to the C8, which is very cool. Now, I of course did not have a C7 Corvette, but I did have a C6 Corvette when I first started this channel, and I loved the targa top. I didn't take it off as much as I wish I would have, but I loved the fact that it had it. It was a nice addition, and while it's not a complete convertible, it gives you a little bit of that aspect, and I absolutely loved it, and I wish I would have utilized it more. And when I do get the C8 Corvette, if it comes with that, it's something I will certainly look at. Now, the one caveat I do want to say is I have heard, and again, more documentation we've seen, is possibly a hardtop convertible. this is something that I also would look at. I've never been a huge fan of convertibles because of the soft top. It's just not my thing. It's kind of just a personal thing. Some people absolutely love convertibles and they don't mind the soft tops. It's just not something I've ever enjoyed. I don't like the aspect of how it makes the car look, but hard tops are completely different. It looks like a coupe, but then it completely changes into a new car, and I love that. I love having that hard top. A lot less issues you run into as you have with the soft top. Obviously there's more moving parts to it with the hard top, but very, very cool. That's what I'm hoping to see on the upcoming C8 Corvette, and if that's the case, it's something I would certainly look into possibly purchasing a convertible over a coupe. Now, pricing is something I'll have to look at as well, because a hardtop convertible is most likely going to add quite a sum over the coupe version. Now, the third thing I'd like to see on the upcoming Corvette C8 is a very touchy situation, and that's pricing. Now, the reason it's so touchy is a lot of people have argued, especially on the forums, that the upcoming Corvette is going to be much more expensive due to the design layout. Corvette is going to price it very, very heavily, and this is just not the case. Now, there was a forum member guaranteeing that the upcoming Corvette would be $169,900. It was ridiculous. Corvette would be completely outpriced for the typical buyer. So we know that's not the case. And even Bob Lutz, a huge part of who Chevrolet was, he's been a big director for many, many years, came out and said it would be a little more than the current C7. Now, what that means is kind of up for speculation, but I think a lot of people have said that he probably meant $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, possibly $10,000 more. And with an MSRP currently on the C7 of $55,000, we're looking at that mid $65,000 range. So that's actually a good place for the Corvette to start. Now, I've said I thought it would base at a little over 70, but I would love to see the car base under 70. 60 to 65,000 would be a great spot. Now, of course, you add options. I'll buy the Z51 and several other options. I'm expecting mine to price over 70, but a base closer to 60 is a great price point. And I think for a lot of people, it's much more attainable. 55,000 currently is a great price for the C7, and hopefully it's not that much more for the new mid-engine Corvette. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Where do you think it's going to price? Because again, this is a very sensitive kind of area topic, and a lot of people are very worried, but I think it's not something that so many people need to get worked up about, and we're going to know a lot more information in just a few short weeks. Now, the fourth thing I'd like to see on the upcoming Corvette is a very big thing for me, and that's because I love manual transmissions. So of course, you guessed it, I would love to see a manual transmission on the upcoming C8 Corvette. Unfortunately, what we do know is that when the base Corvette comes out, at least at the debuting date at the end of this year or early next year, it's only going to come with a dual clutch transmission. Now, the dual clutch is probably going to be very quick, very nice, settled with the upcoming Corvette, but it does not change the fact that there won't be a manual transmission offered at that time. So when I order mine, it's going to have to be the dual clutch transmission. But there is a little bit of hope that we've talked about before, and that is there is a patent put in for a clutch-by-wire system for the upcoming Corvette, and whether they use that or not is completely up to them, but if they do, it would allow there to be a new manual transmission offered down the line. It may be on a later variation, the Z06 or ZR1 format of the car, or possibly they add it to a later year of the base Corvette, and if they do that, I will certainly be trading mine in for a manual transmission. I love manuals. I think they're incredible, and I think even though a dual clutch will be much faster, track, street, anywhere, because of the times of the shift and just overall feedback, it still does not change the fact that a manual transmission gives that driver all that feeling, just kind of the nostalgia of driving a sports car the way it is meant to be driven. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping in the future, but we already know pretty much confirmation that that will not be a possibility at the debuting of the car. Now, the fifth and final thing that I would eventually like to see, and I say that eventually because I don't want to see it at the base version of the car, but it would be all-wheel drive system. And the only reason I would like to see that is because I absolutely love the all-wheel drive system in my current Audi R8. Now, a lot of people that love Corvettes know them as a rear-wheel drive vehicle, and there's nothing wrong with that. But one thing that Chevrolet has admitted is as they get into their high higher horsepower variations, traction is a major issue. The Z06, especially the ZR1, is a major component of that. They know that they've hit a roadblock with traction, and that's also why they're moving to the mid-engine layout, to get a little bit more traction with the change in weight distribution. But still, there's only so much that can be done when you're turning two wheels. Changing that over to an all-wheel drive system is a huge plus for traction. It will make the car faster, more stable. It can do a lot. And a lot of people say, well, you lose that ability to feel the car be pushed from the rear wheels. But a lot of people forget the fact that the new all-wheel drive systems we're seeing has the ability to push the power to the front or the back in percentage terms, saying that a lot of newer cars have the ability to push all of their power to the rear wheels. So 100% of that power and torque goes to the rear wheels. And then as they start to lose grip, they can put a little bit of that power to the front. And eventually turns into kind of a 50-50 split, maybe 40-60, but it's a very neat system, and I love how my Audi R8 drives, and it can take a corner impressively quick because it just holds the corner, and as it starts to lose grip from the rear wheels, it puts more power up front. It's just a very neat, responsive feeling as you're driving the car harder towards its limits. And until you can actually feel that, if you've never driven a car that has that, it's kind of just something that you have to take somebody's word for. And hopefully on the higher variations of the Corvette, we see that as a potential. We have heard that the 1,000 horsepower hybrid supercar of the Corvette lineup could possibly get this all-wheel drive system, and of course at that type of horsepower level we certainly would need it. Well everyone, that pretty much sums up the 5 things that I would absolutely love to see on the upcoming Corvette C8. It's just something that I've kind of put together over time, and I think a lot of them are very plausible, but this is where I want to hear from my viewers. What do you guys think on my list? What do you think of the things I put in it? What would you add or change, or what is your likelihood that you think we'll see these things? Of course, I gave you what my thoughts are on them, but again, I love hearing what you guys have to say and just kind of interacting with you guys all through the comments. So let me know below what your thoughts are. If you enjoyed today's video or found it interesting, please support the channel, hit that thumbs up, it would be much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Tons of new video content coming up, very cool with the R8, as well as buying and owning the C8 once it actually officially debuts and I can order one and get it in the garage. But guys, thank you so much for joining me on today's video. I truly appreciate all of your support, and as always, we'll see you next video. Take care.